Hello and thanks a lot for joining us at this time on TVC News. This is Journalist Hangout. Well, today on the program, Governor Massari confirms opening of negotiations with abductors of Kankara schoolboys, just as the governor also says the students remain safe in Zamfara forest. Also on the program today, rice, poultry and other items remain banned as federal government reopens 4 land borders. Also on the program, we will tell you about the House of Representatives calling for extension of the NIN registration deadline on SIM cards at this request of 10 weeks, just as 161 million lines risk being blocked in 2 weeks. Later on the show, Governor Zulum of Borno State meets with Chad President Deby. This over voluntary repatriation of 18,000 Borno refugees in Chad. I'll be hanging out today with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Shola Ojeusi. Journalist Hangouts, that's now. Good to have you join us again on TVC News. Now let's start Journalist Hangout proper at this time by wishing President Muhammadu Buhari a happy 78th birthday. And we at Journalist Hangout wish him more strength and wisdom to steer the ship of the country aright and at this particular time. Let me introduce my guests as well, Shola Ojeusi and BKO. Good evening to you both. BKO, what's your message to the President at this time?
Well, my message is for him to do his best to secure our country. At this auspicious occasion of his 78th birthday, I wish him God's strength, I wish him long life, and I wish him success in steering our ship, the ship of the Nigerian state, to the promised land. There are high hopes. At the time the president came into office, and I still have hope in my country that my country will be better, and I want the president to play his part in making my dream come true.
And Shola, for you, what would it be?
Well, I wish him a happy birthday and many happy returns, long life, and all that he wishes for himself. And I just want to, just like Jide, use this opportunity to also plead with him, because the president has a legacy to protect. You know, the future beckons. His legacy, whatever he's going to hand over, whether we like it or not, by 2023, he has to leave, but whatever he leaves behind matters, because that will be recorded in history. So he has history beckoning, and I pray and beg the president that perhaps one of the birthday gifts is going to give the nation is making sure that the children of Kankara, the students, are brought back home safely and return to their parents and bring Christmas and New Year joy to those very, very devastated parents now. All in all, he should do something about his legacy and secure the nation properly.
Absolutely, and that brings us to the topic that we would be treating firsthand here on the program. Still on this Kankara boys kidnap, where Nigerians are awaiting the safe return of the abducted students of the government science secondary school in Kankara, Katsina State. Governor Aminu Bello Massari says there is no cause for panic. The governor confirmed that government is in talks with the abductors of the schoolboys who were abducted from their school premises on Friday, December the 11th. And Governor Massari noted that security agencies have located the area where the boys are. Meanwhile, a video of the abducted schoolboys has also surfaced online. Let's share it with you.
Dan Allah, you have to dissolve any gang of vigilantes, close any kind of schools, excluding Islamia.
Shine za a gada ma Gwamnan Katsina ya gansu suna cikin ƙoshin lafiya. Ga sunan da ganin su kasan suna cikin ƙoshin lafiya.
All the armies that have come here to help us, please send them back. They can do nothing to them. Please. Wa'annan sojojin da suka shigo su kuma babu abin da za su iya musu wallahi. Jirgin nan ma a daina turuwa. Please, sir, you have to send all the soldiers and armies and this jet back. Please, sir. Please, sir, we need your assistance, sir. Please.
All right, that video circulated a while ago, and there it supposedly shows one of the captives speaking for the rest of the Kankara boys now with so many messages. BKO, how do you read this, video?
No, it's a thing of joy that at least we know that they are alive.
We can see them.
We can see that they are alive, and it gives us great joy. So at this time, we can only appeal to our government, the security agencies, to do their best to secure the release of these boys. It gives us joy. They are alive, so it's something to be happy about. The governor said none of them is dead. That is good news. All that we're after now is for the people concerned, the people's duty it is to secure us, to protect us, to bring these children back to their parents. It's a massive shame for our country. It's a massive shame. And when Khan said that we have not learned from previous abductions, I cannot argue, because we've had abduction in Chibok, we've had abduction in Dabchi. There's no reason in the world why this should happen. There's no reason. We should keep the schools safe. We should keep the schools safe, especially schools located not far away from forests. Because this school is located not far away from the forest. So we should keep our schools safe. Otherwise, parents will find it difficult. Look at in the north where we are struggling to raise the school enrollment. If this kind of things are happening, people will be reluctant, especially to put their children in boarding house. And the boarding house is good because it allows them to concentrate a lot more. Some of the children, when they are not in boarding house, once they are through with school on a given day, they become street hawkers and all that, which would impact negatively on their education. But in boarding house, they are able to focus on their academic work. Their attention will be on their studies. So it's a good thing that we have we can see pictures of the children. It shows that they are alive, and that will give joy to their parents. But their joy will be total when those children are finally brought back home safely.
Absolutely.
And I want to think that the governor and the armed forces are doing their best to ensure that these children are brought back safely. It's painful that Boko Haram got involved. The warning had been there that Boko Haram could, in fact, spread its tentacles to
beyond the northeast.
Yes, beyond the northeast, and that is dangerous. That is dangerous. We don't want to see them have active cells outside of the northeast. Let's have them in the northeast where they are localized and crush them right there. The moment they're able to spread their tentacles beyond the northeast, they become much more difficult to handle.
Absolutely. And of course, there are so many, pointers and takeaways, not from BKO's angle alone, but for you now, Shola, what do you make of this video, especially with the confirmed involvement of the Boko Haram group?
Yeah, seeing the children, the students, is a bit of a reliever that at least they are alive. But parents watching this will also be very agitated. Our children are there. They want to really be sure that they're coming home. When those in authority, from the presidency down, anyone involved in securing the release of these people must be on their toes. Because already they've created, even this video agitates the parents the more. Absolutely. You could see there is a kind of, I mean, the emotional aspect of this can best be imagined. But we still have hope. The only thing is, a lot of things are attached to this kind of past we're having. There has been the notion that the North is educationally disadvantaged. Here we are again, schools are being attacked, school has been placed on siege, school children are being kidnapped. This is the time, a very critical time for education in the North, and that should come to the notice of the leaders of Nigeria. You want to improve, you have to ensure that the parents are not discouraged. Let me tell you, I got a call today from somebody who's involved in international education. We were just debating the issue, you know, right from Ukraine, that with all this incessant kidnapping of students in school, and you people are talking about developing education, especially in an educationally disadvantaged environment. How do you encourage parents to continue to enroll their children in school when they don't have the confidence that their children will be safe and secure in those school environments? So there is a nagging question for the authorities in Nigeria that this even goes beyond what's happening in Kankara. We were talking of, Chibok. That was from one region of the North to an extreme region. It's becoming, it's like a disease, a pandemic disease that has to be nipped in the bud. Every hand must be on deck. You know, all these white paper promises, people want to see concrete action. And the concrete action means getting those children out. Absolutely. Whatever it takes to do that will go a long way beyond, bringing peace to the homes of the parents who are in serious distress now. It's also going to give confidence to those in the North that, well, we can send our children to school. It is going to affect the entirety of the country.
Absolutely. I like the fact that you mentioned, the impact of this on education.
Yes, it has,
in the Northeast, when you consider the number of children out of school.
I was in the North, I lectured in a Federal College of Education. I knew at that, this kind of thing, if you ever imagined that you'd be having this kind of, a problem coming to it's so disheartening, right. And we have to do something about it. Please. And
in the midst of, this national outrage that this Kankara incident, has brought again, reawakening the horrors of 2014 and, of course, the 2018 Yobe kidnap of school children. We are having, reports of someone issuing a tweet attributed to Abducted claiming that the boys had been freed. BK, what do you make of this?
It just shows how bad our people are. I saw that tweet. The lingo is completely as to Abducted's lingo. At least I've
interacted.
I've interacted with her. I've admired her from a distance for years. Abducted doesn't talk like that. Abducted, so when I saw the tweet, I said, what's going on? But it's a good thing now that Abducted has officially debunked the thing. What does that person want to gain by claiming that, oh, the children have been set free? Even if they are set free, I'm sure Abducted won't be the person to announce to the whole world, So, and it's not the way she speaks, neither is it the way she writes, when you see the tweet. So it's unfortunate that people, at a time of adversity, so people will sit back and be thinking of making mischief. It just shows the level to which
not thinking of the pain of the parents.
How we abuse the social media. just shows how much we abuse the social media. And when they start talking about regulating social media now, we will be up in arms. But we shouldn't be, people shouldn't be doing all these things. And people who do these things, we have an obligation to bring them to justice. You can't be promoting fake news in our country, you know. You can imagine those who will have jubilated over that, only to discover that it's false.
Even the parents. You know,
so at the end of the day, you now say, oh, it's Abducted Abiri who is trying to launder the image of government by claiming that children who are yet to be rescued have been rescued. I mean, it's total balderdash. I wish that that person can be fished out so that he can be punished appropriately.
And of course, be used to set an example. But if we look at, you know, further dynamics to this developing story now, hearing the boy now who was made like the representative, of course, we saw him break down at intervals, you know, in tears. But one of the takeaway for me was, you know, telling the Nigerian soldiers, telling vigilante groups not to come out, and also saying that there were much more than the record we have, than the number we have of them in captivity. So, you know, and again, also saying that ransom, you know, is the way to go, is the option, as against, you know, advice from experts.
Let me tell you, there is a lot of psychological pressure on the children, on the abductees there. Those who are holding them to ransom with guns will be telling them what they want the government to hear, and they will, you know. But you have to acknowledge the fact that these youngsters are in serious distress. What they are just after is to be out of that place, because there will have been a lot of threats. You know, you're staring at the barriers of guns. There will be a lot of things to really break those children. And whatever they are told, they have to do. And it means, you know, you even have to look at it beyond what we have now. Post-traumatic stress disorder will come in after, because they are traumatized. And so when you hear that boy talking, it's just the voice of those goons holding him to ransom.
And we could even hear some voices.
So
right.
it tells those in charge to be able to know the right strategy. Because whether we like it or not, lives are still in danger. A lot of statements, a lot of whatever will be done has to be diplomatic enough. First and foremost, you know, there's a Yoruba proverb. First and foremost, chase away the fox before you start blaming the hen. Or before you start, once the fox has been you've already taken care of the fox, then you can know what to say about the hen. But the most important thing now is the lives, security of the lives of those students is very paramount. And whatever has to be done diplomatically, you know, whether by, you know, negotiation or whatever is going to be done. Yes, I know the government we want to grandstand. Yeah, we don't want to negotiate with terrorists, but there are ways of negotiating and coming out with your head high. So do the right thing, do the best thing to help those children. That is the most important thing now. And know that beyond the rescue, there is also life after this kind of trauma. Something has to be done about that. Post-traumatic stress, you know, you can best imagine. I spoke with somebody who was kidnapped. Every second of the day, you are also always thinking between life and death. You don't know what will happen. Because when you look at these people, you face them, you know, the kind of, verb that comes from those people can even kill you before you are even shot. So all those things that must be done to bring these children back home safely is very essential.
The general notion is that, you know, the longer the boys stay in captivity, the riskier it is for them. They've seen a lot already, going by reports of, you know, some of them even being killed by the terrorists. And now there are talks of, you know, bargaining chips that Boko Haram would likely bring forward, talking about their members who are being detained by the Nigerian government and elsewhere. What do you make of this, this debate on whether ransom should be paid?
Let's leave the issue of ransom.
And of course, the other issues.
Let's leave the issue of ransom. There is no, when you are faced with this kind of situation, you don't begin to say, oh, we don't negotiate with terrorists. countries of the world find a way to negotiate with terrorists using third parties. They are not going to do it directly. You've seen Nigeria negotiate for the release of Chibok girls using the Swiss government
and it paid off.
And the Red Cross, you know. So somehow you must find a way to negotiate. What we are after is for these children to be released. And we also don't want this to happen again, because if we continue the same lethargy and attitude that, well, all is well with security, we don't need to take drastic measures about our security. If we change service chiefs, the problem will still be there. We don't need all of that. What we're after is improvement. Keep your service chiefs. I've suggested to the president, since he thinks that these service chiefs are the best in the world, he can keep them, but we require improvement in security. Because that's the only way you can justify keeping the people who handle security in your country. Before our eyes, we saw what happened in Sri Lanka. And the man in charge of security decided to resign. In our country, they won't even contemplate resignation. And we're now saying, okay, you are now even statutorily above the age. So instead of going against the laws of our land, why don't you just let them go and bring in someone else? You start hearing an argument. How many service chiefs did Obasanjo use? Was security this bad under Obasanjo? Security was not this bad under Obasanjo, now, except we just want to lie to ourselves and we don't fear God. That's when we say things were this bad. It wasn't this bad. So this is the thing. Okay. Let us have improvements in security in our country. There was a time we used to enjoy traveling.
Indeed.
Yes.
We have to take a very quick break now. We will be right back for more on Journalist Hangout. I'm still talking about the lifting of, land borders, with more to commence later in the year, or before the end of the year, as we continue conversation here on Journalist Hangout. Shola, what's your take? Of course, there's the issue of, the ban on rice and maize, on the tomato puree, and so many other commodities, still banned. How much of an impact have we even seen, on those areas, if we even look beyond rice?
Well, the most important thing is to know that we should enable the government to be able to manage this, because there is a danger. Because if you just say because people have been complaining, you just open the entire border and allow these floodgates of foreign products to come into the market and then disturb the local economy. I'm not the kind of person that will say, because of the sentiment involved, we have to look at the long-term effect of such action. So the government and those people who are in charge of our economy should be able to understand how best this can be done, that while the local economy is not affected, also we have to think of the table and what has to be brought to the table of the ordinary Nigerians who are really bearing the brunt of the inflation and also the price of commodity that's gone skyrocketed. So balance is very essential in being able to do this for the time being. And then what is not possible, what we cannot get, what we don't have, you cannot say they should not be available in the country. If there are particular things that are needed, particular products that are necessary, then we have no choice for the time being that we allow them to come in. But those that are available in the country, we have to think of protecting the local economy. Otherwise, we'll be, harming the economy of Nigeria.
Right.
Yes.
Well, let's move on now, because there's still, so much ground to cover on the program today. Now to this also lingering issue that, of course, started this week. It has to do with whether, no matter how good an idea is, the timing of its implementation is also very critical. A federal government's directive for deactivation of SIM cards without national identity number in 2 weeks is met by condemnation from Nigerians. Members of the House of Representatives have now called for an extension of 10 weeks to enforce this new directive. According to them, this will allow more than 161 million Nigerians whose lines risk being blocked enough time to register. And the lower legislative chamber wants the National Communications Commission to give them to consider this 10-week extension. That is the bone of contention now. BK, is it likely that the federal government will see or buy the advice of the lawmakers?
No, it's a directive to the
NCC.
The NCC to the minister. The Minister of Communication is not bigger than the National Assembly. The National Assembly has power of oversight over any of those ministries and agencies. We've been in this situation before when the customs suddenly woke up one day and said that it will now be arresting motorists on our highways and asking them, including cars that had been bought for many years, asking them for their custom papers. Of course, that was ridiculous. If yes, we wanted to make money, but someone who bought his car a long time ago, at a point when the value of the naira was, when the naira was much stronger against the dollar than it is now, you now come up with customs duty using the current rate. And the people said, no, you can't do this. The people protested, and the National Assembly stopped it. This one, I expect also that they will prevail on them to do what makes sense, because the time, within 2 weeks, you want 1.5 million Nigerians to have registered, when in years you couldn't do more than 42 million. So it is not a realistic deadline. No one can register 161.5 million subscribers within 2 weeks. There's no way by which anyone can do it. There's no way by which anyone can do it. Even the telcos, for example, look at Abuja. They don't have up to 50 offices in Abuja. You can imagine how many people swarm all the telcos put together.
Especially at this time.
I'm talking about all the telcos put together.
Indeed.
Now, you can imagine how many people will swarm those offices at a time when we are battling against Corona. It's like just sentencing us to death. We will swarm that place and be asking to be registered and all that. And in the end, a lot of people money will be extorted from a lot of innocent people. This is, the ideal thing is to say, okay, 6 months within this period, the same way the banking sector handled the issue of BVN, let the time ceiling be long enough for everyone to be able to do it. This is what should have been done a long time ago. Then you suddenly woke up and said within 2 weeks that everyone should be registered. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. It's not. Yeah, let's even look at the possibility of it. How do you do it? How many people can you register in a day? Look at a state like Akwa Ibom. It's a state inhabited by about 4 million people. Only 900,000 persons have registered. And I can tell you, if not because it was difficult, if it was so easy to register this thing, a lot of Nigerians would have registered. A lot of people will queue up just the same way people suffer just to get their voter's card. Some will bribe and bribe before they are given their PVCs. Some will get to the place 4 a.m. and take number just to get PVC. This one too, on my way home, on my way to work, I always see them in my area. As early as 6:30, people are already queuing up there. And that was before the ultimatum. No ultimatum, but people were always queuing up there, waiting and waiting.
Absolutely.
So you can imagine the explosion that we will receive because a minister suddenly woke up and said, within 2 weeks. It's not, the minister, Pantami, is behaving like a soldier. You can't simply decree that, okay, 2 weeks, this thing. You block people's phone lines, and it will affect businesses.
Economy.
You block a lot of people's lives and well-being are dependent on this telephony business. So it's just not practicable. The National Assembly should call the minister and tell the minister that, look, you cannot do it at this time. They have the power. This is not an issue of this, my party man is. No, no, no. We have reached that point in Nigeria now that we need to occasionally brush this issue of party aside and look at the public good. Has he said what makes sense? Is it realistic? Is it possible to register 161.5 million people in 2 weeks?
Right. And Biko, you know, the NCC released a statement late yesterday talking about this shortfall of several millions of Nigerians who are yet to be captured under this NIMC bracket now. And now it has now, you know, opened up this registration process. Of course, a lot has been said about the stress associated with, you know, going to register to capture your data and all that. Now, the NCC is saying it has, you know, given certain vendors now, you know, the rights to do this.
173 centers.
Absolutely, 173. We also have, like, that is for private, and then we have 30 for the public sector to include state governments and so on, EFCC and many other bodies. How will this? How do you even think this would, you know, ease the system?
Even at that, can it be achieved in 2 weeks? In 2 weeks.
We are talking about 2 weeks.
You know, let me just. I wonder why all these federal government or whatever agencies like to just make life difficult for Nigerians. We've been on this for so many years. But let's come to the issue of this national registration process, NIN, that we're talking about. There were prerequisites laid down initially that have been given. People have been doing this thing. This idea of now attaching it to SIM registration. Did they not think about this right from the beginning? Because the question Nigerians are asking, why is this just coming on? People were not given enough sensitization. Give them enough time to understand why you're even doing this in the first place. You just put it on them and you are telling them you have to do this before the 31st of December. It doesn't make sense. It just looks like people who think Nigerians are playthings. You have to call a spade a spade. This is a very terrible approach. But I think the National Assembly has taken the right step in the right direction. And like Jide said, we need to really get the people to understand what they are into. Give them enough. People, you know, can't we just find a way, even right from the scratch? That's when we plan things. Don't we have things we put into the planning to make sure that we don't just bring in any ideas?
The issue also is, what is their own capacity, even at inception, to register? In 10 years, they registered only 42 million. The people registered 42 million in 10 years. Now want to by magic or by the tricks of an Aladdin. They now want to do it within 2 weeks. In 10 years you register 42 million people. I'm worried about the panic and the stampede that we are going to experience even in those registration centers. For example, look at the state, I think one of these north central states. Because local government headquarters, people go there to register for this thing. Local government workers are on strike in that place. How is the registration going to take place there? That means it can't take place there. Yes. Even the 173 centers that they talked about. How many are in the rural areas? A lot of people in the rural areas, they also use these phones.
Absolutely. All
this PAGA, this POS business, they do it in the rural areas.
That's true.
What is the level of penetration that we are going to see in terms of the number of these centers where people can register that you are put in the rural areas? Or are you, because you see when we start, They will then discover that, oh, 173 are not enough. They'll probably be thinking that, okay, they should license more of those centers. In any case, we also want to make money off this thing. I've seen clearly that there's an attempt to make money, but it's not a big deal. If at NIMC, your capacity is to register 2.5 million people monthly, what were you waiting for all these years?
Almost.
This idea of simply bringing people now to help you, why didn't you think about that before now?
You know, as part of the planning,
yes,
right from scratch.
Look at the way the banks did their own. The BVN thing. They did it and it's successful. But there are far more people who have phone lines who do not have bank accounts. Agree. I agree that we should be able to synchronize our data.
Yes.
But we should have been on this for long. If you extend it, okay, 6 months. After the 6 months, there will no longer be an extension. You will see that during that period. And of course, if the people involved also show professionalism and they don't just get to those centers when they like, and they don't just simply want to extort money. There's somebody who said, oh, that he got to that there was a mistake in his data. They quoted the wrong age. And he went back. They said, okay, bring 25,000 before we can correct it. That person didn't go back there because he didn't have the money. So all kinds of encumbrances will create all kinds of problems for people and make it difficult for people who genuinely don't want to be part of this kind of program to be part of it.
And two issues for me, looking at, people have also said, okay, this is clearly an attempt, to fleece Nigeria. So if you look at it per person, if you have to, send, use that USSD code circulated earlier, it's 20 naira per message. But then if you now quantify that with the number of Nigerians,
yes.
you can imagine.
The handling has brought this kind of, and I think it also behoves the government to let the people know. That's why I said earlier, did you really sensitize Nigerians why you are doing this? Did you give them any reason for them to understand? There are underlying reasons. Let us face it. Underlying reason why you have to do some of these things. There are still people using the telecoms or whatever lines they have to commit atrocities. Yes. You should be able to trace such people. Kidnapping, even people training you on for, despite all the efforts. Yes, all effort that led to the, slamming of a very huge sum on one of the telecoms sometimes ago.
But
those things are still there.
All of them were guilty of this.
All of them.
But they decided to punish only one.
Yes, those terrible things are there. And we have to have a way of coping because, I see people calling me with strange numbers, telling me straight,
you see your friends, those are
somebody you've never heard from Adam.
Still having that.
Yes.
The caller will bring out their name. So you'll be wondering, where is this person? By the time you pick it, you're not just a Yoruba person.
So it's necessary, but the government, we have a way of doing things haphazardly. Let's get it right. Let people know why you're doing this, and don't give the people the impression you're trying to fleece them. When that comes in, then the question of credibility. Anything you do, be credible, Mr. Government, or whoever you are. That is the question. Let the people know why this is necessary for their own good. But you have not even done that. You are slamming 2 weeks. It doesn't make sense. The National Assembly, that kind of intervention is what we expect from them. And they stand there.
A lot of them too will lose their lines.
They will lose. And there's a lot.
So you one person, you have 3 lines.
Absolutely. That's even a norm here in Nigeria.
I think we have to respect the people. Whatever policies are bringing up, you are doing it not for yourself, for the good of the people. And the people have to be stakeholders. How are they stakeholders? Keep them abreast of things. Let them know the reason why you are giving them these things.
And if you even look at, if well managed, and if the centers can also be better regulated and all that, this slip now, if and when one gets it, also, will even be better than if you have a driver's license and international passport. Many Nigerians are also don't seem to be aware that, this is like our own, something that everyone should identify with.
There's nothing wrong in us aligning our database, motor licensing, even BVN, then your voter's card. We should find a way to align each of them so that you can use either of them for certain purpose. For example, I support the integration of the database of Nigerians. This is one step in the right direction. I do not quarrel with the wisdom behind this, because I think it's the right thing to do. It is the fiat by which the minister wants to do this that is ridiculous. It is not as if what he has come up with is wrong. And I would want it to happen during their time to underline the seriousness of the government. But this is something that you can say, as the banks did, you can say, okay, 6 months. After 6 months, no more. Everyone will know that, okay, during this period, they must get themselves registered. But to have registered just 42 million persons in 10 years, and you want to register 161.5 million in just 2 weeks, it's a long shot. It's ridiculous. We shouldn't even be thinking like this. That's the way I see it. And the representatives of the Nigerian people have an obligation to check ministers who simply do what they like. I've heard people say that, look, I've heard people say, see, it didn't take me 5 minutes, I got it registered. That it was that easy for you does not mean that
it was easy for everyone.
It's just like someone, because he has consistent electricity in his house and he deceives himself that there is now electricity is now improved in our country. You have not found out the level of power generation, because that is really the crux of the matter. If we don't generate so much, even if in an area people have electricity, that's the signal that we are not doing so well. But you find Nigerians in their own area, they have light all the time. Those 2 days were just for like 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. And people know where they know my area. They know that it's not the one is inventing, and it's been like that for years. Wow. You understand? So that it was easy for you to register does not mean that that's the way it has been for everyone. There are people who register for the thing and they told them to come back. They keep going back there. They've not given them their national ID card.
But you know,
so many people.
There is a question that is even bugging my mind. We have, I think biometrics is supposed to be foolproof. Once you capture somebody's fingerprints, anywhere you present that fingerprint, capture the biometrics, it should be glaring who the person is. All those we've been doing, because all the ones we've been doing when we were doing our SIM registration, when you had to go to the embassies to do your whatever, is there no way of capturing this to be able to make it easier on the people and then apply it to whatever has not been done? You know, that's not the question that from a layman's perspective.
It's a separate database that one is going to.
Oh, but then
that's the sense of because the integration is not there. That's the point I'm making. The integration is
so
not
that you don't
there.
need to keep
so like
every other day. Yes.
It's like a waste. You then go and do this one, you queue up again. Whereas they should actually have your data.
Yeah, it should be there.
You know?
That's why even in terms of being able to capture criminals in Nigeria,
it's one of the things, this thing will help us. It will help us because those guys simply they just get phone lines and use it to commit crime. And I've said it before that I don't understand that why it's so easy for criminals to, they will kidnap you and still use phone to be negotiating for ransom. It shouldn't be that easy for them, you know? So, but now, maybe with this now, it will be a lot difficult for those people. Yes. Are they going to come out of Daji, come out of the Rugu forest and other places to come and do this? Because they know that it will be blocked. And if it's your biometric data that is needed, it then means that you have to be there physically.
That's true. Let's make sure that Nigeria are not put... We've gone through a lot in 2020, and we should make sure that there is not too much pressure as we try to celebrate Christmas peacefully in our homes.
Well, I just hope that reason will prevail in the end.
All right, so let's move along to the other topic we have before us, of course, still on security. In the face of daunting security challenges in the Northeast, Governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum, is trudging on, this towards bringing succor to the insurgency-ravaged people of the state. While Governor Zulum was in charge to meet with President Idris Deby, this over repatriation of about 18,000 refugees displaced by Boko Haram to Borno State. And at that meeting with President Deby at the Presidential Palace in Jamena, Governor Zulum, in company of the Nigerian ambassador to Chad, Zana Omar Kolo, said the visit was to thank Chad and see the Borno refugees and talk to those willing to return home. And we saw images of the governor, you know, mingling with the refugees. There's also the issue of now that they've said it's only going to be a voluntary resettlement, that is those who are willing to return back to Nigeria.
Yes. It's voluntary because the people that we are talking about, they are trying to relocate them to Borno North, especially Baga this time. Baga is like the economic lifeblood of Borno State, where they used to get most of the IGR in those days. So the governor is desperate to return business activities to Baga. Is the number one fishing market in Nigeria, you know. At the height of his powers as the number one fishing market in Nigeria, trailer loads of fish will be going out of Baga for 24 hours, you know. So the governor is desperate to bring this back, and is trying to bring people back to Baga. In Chad, we have 18,000 Nigerian refugees in Chad. 15,000 of them are from Kukawa local government, which is the largest local government in Borno State, and the headquarters of Kukawa is Baga. So because the governor has been rebuilding Baga because he wants the people, once they return, to find a place where they can lay their heads. He too has a kind of ramshackle temporary home in Baga. In fact, one of the people who traveled, the governor told me that if I see where they slept the day the governor went there, that you just conclude that this Zulum is someone, is such an unusual kind of person.
To risk his life to go to Baga the other time.
No, he's been going there. He's been going, like when I traveled to Borno now.
Yes.
During that time he was in Baga, he was working there. He's trying to make the place habitable for people who will be relocated. And some of those people have voluntarily been going back. Because of the security situation, you cannot force people. If anything happens, they will say it's the governor who brought them there by force. And then Boko Haram came to kill them. So they are securing the area, and they are preparing the area for people who want to relocate, to come and to find a place where they can lay their heads and continue their lives. You can't be a refugee forever. No matter how well the people, the government of Chad are treating our people. A foreign land is a foreign land. And the Yorubas always say that ajo ledun. So people will always feel that pull to come back home. So he's gone there, and he knows that they've been going through a lot. The governor shared cash of 50 million to 5,000 families in 5,000 Nigerian families in Chad.
10,000.
He has also gone to Niger Republic, and he has gone to Cameroon, because some of our people who fled from Kalabalge local government, especially ran where they killed, they took away those midwives, and eventually killed them. They are in Cameroon now.
Wow.
There are thousands of our people in Cameroon, in Chad, in Niger Republic, especially people of Borno North. Kalabalge is not in Borno North, but it's, I think, Borno Central. But the people do not also find that place safe. So they've decided to relocate some of them to Cameroon. So this is the thing. The whole of Borno North is largely uninhabited. Almost the whole of Borno North is not inhabited. at this time, and a lot of them are those countries that are in Niger, they are in charge. So he's trying to bring those who are willing to come home, bring them home so that they can fend for themselves. You can't be giving them handouts forever. A lot of them are starving, no clothes.
Even the traumatic experience of being in foreign countries.
Yes, you just feel like, and they've been there since 2014.
Yes.
They've been there since 2014.
There is no way it can be perfect, definitely. And really, I have to commend the governor. He's been doing a lot, a human's job, reaching out. I think his approach to diplomacy to really, perhaps because of his education or because of at least he has been experienced, he's been part of the whole thing, even right from the governorship of Shettima.
Yes.
And let's commend him for making that kind of initiative to repatriate. Yeah, it's not easy because even when people think of what happens daily, those who are there may still want to say, wait, where are we going back? Are we really sure it's totally secure for us to return? So he's trying his best to bring a normalcy to a very, very dicey situation. And that kind of approach to diplomacy. And it also boils down to the fact that we should try as much as possible to bring synergy, get the border countries involved in what we are doing, in fighting insurgency.
They too have
their own issues. So that has to be that. So we have to work together because we are all in this together. And that kind of step, I think in so many ways, this is personal, but the governor of Borno has really personally impressed me in the way he's been taking all these initiatives. And he has to be commended, The people matter. When you're, as a governor, as a leader, you have to think about their interests, and that's going on.
No, the people are the centerpiece of his own style of administration.
And that's why, anything that will protect the people, that will make them feel secure, you can't ask for too much. You have to do your best to keep the people.
Right. But briefly, what about the Chad angle? President Idris Deby, now, of course, at the onset, at the beginning of the year, we also saw him, making the news, how he personally, led the combat from his home front. And now, what do you make of this so far?
No, Idris Deby is a battle-tested soldier. He's a veteran of the Chad Army's defeat of the Libyan army in the 80s. Gaddafi was surprised the way the Chadian army outflanked his forces, because he invaded Chad, but Idris Deby, as commander of the army, taught him an exemplary lesson, because his troops were outflanked and a decisive blow was dealt to the
Libyan army.
The Libyan army at that time. And as president, in fact, I was reading one foreign magazine where they said Idris Deby has impoverished his people to strengthen the Chadian army. He's not joking with the Chadian army at all. When I was doing the documentary on the armored vehicles at Proforce in Ogun State, you won't know that in Nigeria we have a company that produces
that kind of
that caliber of armored vehicles. I was told that Chad had ordered for 100 units.
From Nigeria?
Nigeria, yes. Great. And you know what that means. If you have that caliber of armored vehicles, because it can withstand IEDs, if you have 100, you have nothing to fear. It's just like if someone sends to Nigeria now, they give us 100 units of the T-72 Russian tank, or even T-90. I still prefer T-72 because the T-90 is perhaps too sophisticated. Yeah,
technicality.
Yes, so give us T-72. They used it a lot during the Gulf War in 1990 and 91, and it was very successful. If anyone will release 100 to us, Boko Haram will become history.
But does Provost also enjoy the same patronage from the Nigerian side?
Yes, the Nigerian Army too patronizes Provost. In fact, one of those vehicles in that video, General Shegun Adeni's video, it was the Provost vehicle that was behind him. Yeah, okay. It had lost its tire, so they were trying to change the tire. So, and Nigerian Army, I've been told, has also invested in the company. Yes, which is their own way of helping the company to go on, because that constantly they will need that ambush resistance.
If we have such, we don't
ambush protected.
I mean, you have to go cap in hands, begging foreign producers to. Well, you can always be there, and then on short notice you can get what you want, so long as it's helping our battle. I think it's quite commendable. We commend the president of Chad. He's doing his best too, and let there be that synergy among the nations, because we are all.
That's what the government is trying to do.
Yes.
That's what he knows that he needs them. He needs them, and that's why he's going there.
Of course, we can't have too much of partnership.
And in any case, they are brothers.
Indeed. And this is really a very, very formidable war, and it needs even more formidable partnership to combat it. Gentlemen, I thank you very much, Ola Ojeusi and BKO. Thanks so much for your apt analysis of the situation before us as a nation. And just before we go, let's also remind you that a documentary on the 2020 Presidential Christmas Praise Concert comes up on TVC News from 9 to 10 p.m. tonight. So stay with us for that. That's Journalist Hangout today. Don't forget to join us again tomorrow for another episode of the program. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Thank you so much for watching. I am Kemi Foladeyemo. Goodbye and God bless Nigeria. Thank you for staying with us on TVC News as we, press on our discussions right here on Journalist Hangout, still on the issue of the Kankara kidnap. And so much has been said so far, but then let's carry on. Chola, you said earlier on in your greetings and message to the president, how this would be a test on him, especially as this happened right there in his home state of Katsina state. And of course, with what BK has said about the issue of this security chiefs, still there. What good can be done, or what improvement can be done to a security situation with the same personalities in there?
Yeah, this happened in the president's backyard, so to say. I mean, within the state, at the time when the president is right there vacationing. So it leaves much to be desired, and it's a huge responsibility on his neck now to be able to prove to the nation that he is actually in charge. That is atop this situation, and something has to be done so soon. Remember, there were a lot of, he came to the presidency and he riding the wave of security and the economy and all those things, especially security. He's a former commander-in-chief, a top military officer. This thing, is really doing a lot. Like I said, I mentioned earlier, legacy. One of the reasons many people will go for a Buhari any day is that it's a no-nonsense general. But this leaving much to be desired. His legacy is threatened. He will want to be seen as a leader who knew his onions, both economically and also, when you're talking in terms of security. But when something like this is happening right under you, so to say, then you have to come out smoking. Every strategy that will be necessary, everything you have to put into it to make sure that you come out of this, in flying colors, so to say. Because anything otherwise is going to further dent the image of the president, the nation. The people are watching, it's becoming too frequent, my sister. Every other day, it's always Nigerian schools kidnapped. I don't know any other country in Africa that this is happening. So Nigeria is becoming the open sore when it comes to insecurity for schools in Africa. So something has to be done about it. People are complaining that you know, you want to send your children to other schools in Africa. Nigerians are sending their children to school in Rwanda. They are going to Ghana. They are being sent to, you know, why are they doing this? Because they don't, you know, they don't have the confidence anymore. Why are we having this? Nigeria should be the giant of the... What kind of giant are we where we cannot secure our students in their schools? We've been talking about a lot of security measures being put in place, safe school, whatever man we call it. What can we really say has been done particularly to make people believe that this is really happening? What initiative? We are talking of safe schools. Are the schools really safe? So the president has a question to answer. Is he really in charge? He has to prove that he's in charge. There is no sentiment about it. Let me tell you, people in Katsina, I spoke with friends. You know, a friend said he was around Jibia in Katsina. He was traveling, that the apprehension that is there. So it's no longer Kankara. There are other parts of the state that people have to, something has to be done, especially the border states. Something has to be done to make sure that those places are, given serious attention. Whatever happens out of this is going to be a kind of scorecard of the president.
All right. Yes. Let's also, look at how this must also be a test on, Governor Massari, and he's been talking. Now he said they found the exact location where the boys are, says that there's somewhere in the forest, and we saw a semblance of that in the clip we saw earlier. Some have also said, okay, seeing as there was a deal somewhat between bandits and the government and Governor Massari himself, how do you place all this now? How do you think a good can be achieved quickly?
No, it's a deal, but that's a long time ago. That happened a long time ago. The whole deal was broken down, and in the last 1 year, so many people have been kidnapped in Katsina. So we can't be talking about a deal that is no longer in place. The truth is, the governor tried his best, seeing that military action did not put an end to the antics of the bandits. He went to negotiate with them. He's the secretary to the government of the state, Dr. Mustafa Inua, was the man who headed the amnesty committee. Mustafa Inua drove on a bike to the base of the leader of the bandits in that GBI area, in Shimfida. But what have we seen? Bandits have continued to kill people in that same Shimfida. Bandits killed 18 soldiers in 1 day, including an officer, a captain. So all that we can do at this stage is hope that these children will be brought back. So many, dozens and dozens of people have been killed in Katsina after the whole deal collapsed, because you can negotiate with this band of bandits today, another set that were not involved in the whole thing can just come into
have
the
their
area.
Hands back.
That whole area, they can, from that Katsina, they can move to as far as Gwari, because the forests link one another somehow. So they can move as far as Gwari, and the bandits in that area, as far as they are concerned, they are not part of any deal. Bandits, if you negotiate at a time when he was negotiating, Governor Yari of Zamfara didn't negotiate. It was suspected that bandits from Zamfara were the ones who came into this place. As you can see now, those boys have been moved to a forest in Zamfara because the forests link one another. So you can ride on bike and easily get to Zamfara State. In fact, Dansabao, a town where I once went to do a story, is separated by just a river. It's separated from Zamfara State by just a river. So once you cross that river, you are in Zamfara State. It's possible that they just move them right on bike straight to Zamfara State, and that's where those children are. And the reason they are telling those children that they should warn the armed forces not to drop bombs, not to do this, not to do, is because they've located, they pinpointed their exact location, and they can see military jets flying overhead. They don't know what will happen. Now, they don't want vigilante to get involved. They don't want the armed forces to get involved. So it's like now they're in a position of strength. And they believe that it is whatever they want that we will do for them. So how can you say that, no, they should disband vigilante groups? The bandits want to have a free reign. It is the vigilantes who confront them, who kill them where necessary. So they say, no, we don't want vigilantes as a condition for releasing these children.
All right.
So, but
well, we'll rest. Absolutely, it is, and of course, as have been said and established right here, more still needs to be done on the part of the authorities. We hope that the next time we get to discuss this, and very soon too, we'll have more good news. But let's move on now to yet another issue, talking about trans-border sales, which will again witness a boom as the federal government has reopened 4 land borders. But the importation of rice, poultry products and other items remain banned. The reopened borders are Seme in the southwest, Ilela in the northwest, Maitagari, Gatari in the northwest, and of course Umfum in the south zone. Others are to be reopened by the 31st of this month, and this according to the Minister for Finance. Of course, it has also made one to reflect on what benefits Nigeria gained, talking about the economy, talking about the impact on the people during this, past 16 months or so now that the borders were closed, and, how it is going to be now moving forward. Well,
talking of inflation, I believe, we're talking about cross-border trade between Nigeria and other West African states. With what has happened in 2020, the pandemic, a lot of things, this border closure, I expect definitely, a good step in the right direction, because we needed to secure our borders to make sure that the disease did not really, it would have been worse. So somewhere along the line, it was necessary. But when it's getting a bit too long, because so many families, I was in Seme some times ago, most people around that area, that is where they do their trading. Many of them go buy and sell, take their goods as far as Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire. People do a lot of cross-border trading, and that's where they sustain their families. So Seme was like a ghost town. If you've been there before, bustling with economic activities. Beyond smuggling, there are so many other things that have been done. The Nigerian section of the border, a lot of trade, but the whole place became a ghost town. And people who have been having their livelihoods there couldn't do anything in several months. So you could imagine the impact on the economy, on the family, on the livelihood of the people. So when this kind of thing happens, the jubilation that came up is justifiable. So it's going to be of a very positive impact on the people. But I understand too that while doing that, we have to be very careful, because we need to protect our own local economy too. Because we have rice farmers in Nigeria, it will not be done in a way that you're just leaving the border open and then smugglers can have a free reign and then flood the market anyway, to the extent of harming the local economy. We have a lot of organizations in Nigeria, rice farmers in Nigeria. So we have to look at how to manage both sides. Why you want to encourage free trade, you want to give people the opportunity to be able to trade freely and move freely across the borders and do what they used to do legally, legitimately. You also have to think of those who are doing it illegitimately, the smugglers and all those, so that it will not affect. I think that's what the government is trying to put in place. But they have to do a kind of balance to be sure that you can understand that definitely you cannot dispute the fact that the inflation that came up in the cost of rice and all those things also came as a result of the closure, because there was a kind of, but there are people who are coming in legally, who are trading legally. Such people should be looked at. Those who are ready to go through the process should be given the opportunity. Then they should do something about the smugglers. I think that's my own take on that for the time.
Okay, what's yours?
I think that locking up our borders is not the solution. We have to keep the borders safe. It's our responsibility to keep the borders safe. This decision to lock up our borders hurts the small and medium scale businesses the most, because there are many of them who rely on trade across the border, trade,
Transborder.
going to trade in neighboring West African states. In any case, we have the ECOWAS Charter that seeks to ensure free flow
yes,
of trade between the countries of the ECOWAS region. Ghana, for example, was not happy with us because there are many things that are produced in Ghana that are brought into Nigeria to be sold there. Casapreco, it's just one of them. A lot of their drinks synthesized, alcoholic drinks synthesized with herbs. Ghanaians sell a lot of those things to us, you know, and they make good money, just like all these bitters and the rest of them, you know. So they were very angry that this is like an attempt to kill such businesses in their country. Indeed. So I believe that what we can do is to secure the borders, because closing the border, shortening the border is not something that is sustainable. In any case, it also led to inflation in our country, because a lot of those goods that will have come in freely into our country, because we now people have to rely on those things being small goods across the land border, then the prices went up. So it led to it exacerbated inflation in our country. Yes, a lot of the rice mills in our country benefited extensively from this, and during that period, a lot of our people showed greater interest in consuming locally produced rice, because they knew that there was no alternative. But we used that period, that 15 months or so, to actually get people to focus on rice production, you know, production of poultry products from here, and a lot of them made money. But you can't keep that closure in place permanently. And I think the president realized that and has then decided that we should, that the borders should be open. So let's go ahead. And then, of course, it helped us to curb a lot of smuggling of petroleum products, especially petrol, because we now realized just how much we need in our country, how many million liters of petrol we need for our own domestic production, consumption. You know, a lot of it was going across the border, which means we were indirectly subsidizing petrol for nationals of other countries. Yes, I believe that our neighbors have learned their lessons. They should not allow their countries to be used as a staging post to import, to export all kinds of illegal items into our country, illicit items. So we've taught them an exemplary lesson. But I think it got to a point that they were no longer bothered. In the past, if you talked about shortening semi-border, it would be like heavens were to fall. Their president would come here and beg. But at a point, they got used to it and nobody cared anymore.
Please stay with us on TVC News. We'll take a break, and of course, we will return for more on Journalist Hangout.